was just not aware that underneath the lack of willpower was really just an emotional response that I had developed from a young age to go to food when I'm looking for dopamine, when I'm looking for serotonin, when I'm looking for any kind of emotional relief. My
Mhm.
brain was just telling me, hey, Kami, you're actually hungry. Go eat something. And so I was blind. Like I
Mm.
could not see I was anxious my entire life and I was just hungry.
Well, Kami, we're so excited about having you on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear more about you and what you do and your story. But before we do that, we always start off our show with a quick win. So, what is your quick win for today?
Quick win is when they're asking for food, for example, right? You have a common situation where moms are coming to us and they're saying, yeah, my daughter, as soon as she comes back from school, she just wants something to eat right away. She runs into the pantry. And a quick win is when they realize that their daughter is just looking for dopamine and instead they give her a hug instead. And they're like, oh, that worked too. She seemed to calm down. So that's a very simple quick win.
That is, and recognizing it, your kid has been at school all day. There's a lot of emotion or overwhelm or a lot of stimulation going on, right? And so as soon as they get home, it's like, I need to decompress or I need that dopamine hit. So I love that's great. Well, tell me more about what you do and the story behind why you started it.
What I do is I run this company called Step Together, where we, on the surface, it looks very simple. We help parents who have overweight children overcome their excess weight and keep it off. But at the root of it, this is much, much deeper. And when parents realize how deep it goes, they often get shocked because what we address is really all the root causes of the symptom. The weight is just the manifestation of some kind of challenge in their life. Either it's the parents dealing with some emotional challenges in the home, or the kid themselves, they're neurodivergent, or they're getting bullied at school, or they're having just, any kind of challenges the child could have. And they're going to food for their primary coping mechanism.
So you deal with a lot of families with overweight children who are trying to understand, okay, they've gained this weight, they've lost it, down to they're gaining it back, and you've seen this story before. And so getting at the root cause, you're finding that it's actually um, really helpful finding out what those root causes are first.
Yeah, and that's a much better way to say it. And the reason I do it is also important. It's just based on my life story. I
Well,
grew
tell
up as
us, yeah, tell
yeah.
us about that. We always love hearing personal stories and the passion behind where you are now and why you do what you do.
So as far as I can remember, I was overweight. As a kid, the first memory I have is when I was 6 years old and I'm running around the house, just like looking for any kind of food that I could put in my mouth. And I had developed this identity of I'm just the kid who likes to eat, and there's some people who get a lot of pleasure actually feeding me. So it kind of was self-reinforced cycle of I'm just the kid who loves to eat. I'm a little bit greedy with food. And then throughout my childhood, I struggled with weight because of this. I kept gaining weight. I would go on a diet, and in the beginning, it wasn't me going on a diet. It was my mom who was worried
Helping,
herself. Yeah,
yeah.
she was like, "Hey, listen, calories are a thing. You have to look at the label behind the food. You'll only take one portion size, not two, and you don't touch your brother's snacks either."
Right.
Right? So this was the story of my entire life. I just grew up overweight and overeating, and I thought it's just a matter of like me having not enough discipline or willpower, or sometimes thinking that I don't want it bad enough, that I'm just like someone who just doesn't care. But the other people, they care a little bit more. But in hindsight, it's not true at all. Like I was really, really trying. My mom put me through programs like Jenny Craig, where I'm sure your audience knows about this.
Mhm.
You eat just frozen meals, like on a regiment, Weight Watchers, going to the doctors. My mom tried basically everything to help me lose weight, and nothing worked. And I had this challenge growing up until well into my adulthood where I was on the surface very successful. I was in engineering. I had my own VR startup of all things. And, on the surface, it looked like everything was good. But I would come back home, overeat, binge. I struggled, a lot of men don't admit this, but I struggled with bulimia, with overeat, go to the
Mhm.
bathroom, and then come back and overeat again. Right. So this was something I struggled with my entire life. And I was just selfishly looking for why is this happening to me? Why is this weight something I can't solve, but the other things in my life I could?
Yeah, interesting. So what was the thing that kind of came to light that you realized what was really going on?
So the story is a little bit more complicated because I, even in my adulthood, in my mid 20s, I was still on that mindset of I need to force myself. Like it's just a matter of calories in, calories out. Why can't I solve this? I just have to follow this diet and I have to make sure I move enough. And I'm not someone who didn't like working out. I started lifting when I was 16 with my brother. I even ran marathons. I was able clearly to discipline myself. But somehow when the clock hits 9 p.m., I'm in the pantry eating the
Eating.
bland, yeah, just
Looking for whatever is there. Yeah.
exactly. So what really shifted is I was just desperate for a solution. I left engineering completely behind. I was like, there's no point to all this success if I can't solve this. And in the back of my mind, I had the idea that if I solve this, I can help others. But
Mm.
the way it tied to children was very, very serendipitous. But yeah, I was just trying to figure out what was happening. And at the core of it is really my blindness to my emotions, which is
Mm.
very strongly tied to ADHD. And a lot of people with ADHD have,
Mhm.
I'm sure your audience knows, alexithymia, emotional blindness. And I had it throughout my entire life. So I was just not aware that underneath the lack of willpower was really just an emotional response that I had developed from a young age to go to food when I'm looking for dopamine, when I'm looking for serotonin, when I'm looking for any kind of emotional relief. My
Mhm.
brain was just telling me, hey, Kami, you're actually hungry. Go eat something. And so I was blind. Like I
Mm.
could not see I was anxious my entire life and I was just hungry.
So all of those signals all kind of pointed to food instead of saying, "Hey, you're overwhelmed. Take a deep breath right now," or go out for a walk or drink some water. Maybe you're thirsty, right? So
Exactly.
all of those signs just kind of like, "Oh, you're hungry again. Oh, you're hungry again."
Exactly. And it's so hard, especially for children, to notice this. Like adults, also, for them, it's a shock. Most people are exactly like me. From a young age, they're foodies, right? They love food.
Mhm.
Wherever they go, they think about food. If they're traveling, it's about the places you can eat, not the places you can see, right? And
Yeah.
so people are like, yeah, I'm just someone who loves food a lot. But underneath that, there's typically something else happening. It's like you have learned from a young age that food, and it's genetic, most of it, food gives you a lot of those chemicals that we talked about. And so it becomes your default coping for anything, whether it's joy or sadness. And so
Wow, yeah.
for
Yeah,
me,
like,
yeah,
"Let's eat something, let's celebrate." Or,
exactly.
"Ugh, it's been a horrible day. I'm just gonna have some ice cream before bed," and yeah.
And, the saddest thing is also looking back, the moms here, they might feel guilty themselves because they themselves struggle with some of this as well.
Mhm.
And my mom, she did as well. She her entire life, even to this day, she still has eating disorder. She still has difficulty with bulimia herself. And at the core of that was she still has like I tell her, you have all the symptoms of ADHD, and underneath that, a lot of anxiety. But
Mhm.
because of the generation that she grew up in, coming from Iran, coming from that kind of, it's really not something that she was made aware of and kind of dismisses it. No, it's still about willpower. I'm just gonna stop
Just gonna
overeating.
push through. Yeah, and you're finding, like, there's gotta be a better way than that. And so you were an engineer, and so tell me how that kinda plays a part in what you're does that have anything to do with how you've built, um, your business today?
Yes, is because the way my brain works, I am very quote unquote engineering minded. I'm looking for an actual solution to this problem. So when I went looking for this, how to solve myself, I went straight to, okay, what is the point in the system that's breaking? And let's solve that so that I don't have to deal with all this surface stuff that's apparent, which is the lack of willpower, which is the difficulty sticking to a diet or an exercise plan. So yes, I definitely have used the engineering skill, but you know, it also blinded me to the other part because in the world that I come from, you don't really talk about emotions. It's actually completely, it's emotions are almost weak. If you're emotional, it's because you're like go figure it out somewhere else. You know,
Yeah,
it's
and I think there are a lot of families who grew up in that kind of environment. It's almost like, "You're fine, get back up, keep going."
right.
Yeah.
So it's like it's almost like in my late 20s that I had to learn a complete like half of my brain that was completely being ignored, that I was actually having to learn, oh, okay, there are emotions. And you know, the biggest reframe for me that was important, and this is also something we teach parents, every single emotion is useful. It's trying to communicate something. You know,
Mhm.
before we had language, we had emotions. A baby comes into your arms, they can only cry, they can only express emotions. They're trying to communicate, "Hey, I need something." And as a mom, you look at your baby and you're trying to decipher what is it that they need, and you try to fulfill that need. But then at some point, the system breaks where the emotion that a child is trying to express is not being met in healthy ways. For example, we have a lot of children who are upset, they're lonely, they're, anxious or something, and they go to their parents. And for one reason or another, the parent isn't able to meet that emotional need. For example, a mom who can't handle her son's or daughter's anxiety gets anxious, puts even more on the daughter, and they're like, why
Mhm.
can't she or it goes into lecturing. And the child quickly learns, no, actually going to my mom for this emotion is not the best thing, but I still need a solution. And so some children go to food, some children go to technology, some to both, sometimes to drugs, sometimes even young kids go to porn or, different things.
Mhm.
But it is something that has to be addressed. You can't ignore your emotions. And as an engineer, for me, this was like something that was like a an epiphany.
Eye-opening moment, like this, "Okay, this is what's going on." So then how did you develop or build on that? Now that you know the root cause, how did you begin building that?
It's not always just one root cause. That's the tricky thing, right? At the core of it, it's this framework. You're looking at a problem. Parents come to us, their child is overweight. I need to fix this. Can you tell my child to stop overeating? We're like, hold on, hold on. Like that, if that worked, it would be simple. Like there wouldn't be 30 million kids overweight and even adults. There wouldn't be so many people overweight. No, okay. So let's put that aside. Let's try to understand why a child is overeating. And the reason why is many, many different things, right? ADHD is kind of, complicated on its own, but it's also simple. You have a deficit of dopamine in the brain for one reason or another, and you're looking for the external world to give you dopamine. And food, very quick, efficient, simple, no pressure, no stress source of dopamine. Sugar, salty,
Quick
crunchy.
hit, yeah, you feel
Exactly.
good, you feel like, "Okay, I feel like I'm regulated again, I can move on," until you're not.
Yeah. But underneath ADHD, sometimes, inattentive ADHD or different kinds of problems, at the root of it is actually even deeper emotional challenges, right? Your amygdala, the emotional center in your brain, is hyperactivated, and your frontal lobes, the executive function, the part that's struggling in ADHD, is over engaged. It's too much. So it's still looking for dopamine externally to fulfill it. So we have to look at this. Is it emotional? Is it ADHD? Is it parental modeling? Have you, as a parent, been using not just food, cigarettes, alcohol, shopping, external substances or behavior to deal with your emotions? If so, then what is your child learning? I have an emotion. How do the people around me deal with their emotions? Oh, mom seems to be shopping when she's emotional. She goes to the mall immediately. Okay. So what do I do? A child can't go shopping.
Right.
Right?
All of a sudden, Amazon packages
Yeah.
end up at your front door, yeah.
We have, it's funny you say that because we have a lot of parents that happens to. Like their child finds their phone, goes on Temu. Temu's like
Mhm.
made essentially. I don't know if your audience, some of them might not know, but it's made to engage you in that addictive shopping cycle.
Oh, yes, I stay away from it, but I actually yesterday I clicked on it because I didn't know that I was clicking on Temu, and it was like it has, like, the little spin thing, like, "You get 100% off, like, spin again," and it's, like, double points, and I'm like, "What am I doing? I don't even wanna be on here," you know?
Yeah. Uh,
So it's very
I'll
addictive. Yeah, they
I'll
know.
admit, I've also been caught into the Temu trap, and it's so funny. They really, I come from the game design world where
Oh, yeah.
I've had to study how these things are engineered to activate your brain into that dopaminergic cycle, and Temu is perfect. So if you're a mom listening to this, stay away from Temu. Even if the deals look attractive, it's gonna suck you into spending thousands of dollars against your will.
Yeah, because it's designed to do that, and they're really good at doing that, whether you want whatever you're buying or not.
Exactly. So yeah,
Yeah.
so tangent. So child is looking at parents to see how they're dealing with their emotions. And a child doesn't have much options. Again, food, tech, couple different options that are external to them. And so they learn from that. So is it parental modeling? Is it ADHD? Is it emotional response? There's many, many different things. And food is just one of the ways to deal with it. Our target audience, parents are looking for a child who's excess weight, and that's what they're trying to reduce. But the approach to any other addiction wouldn't be different. If your child is struggling with tech or they're struggling with pornography or video games or anything, right? Any behavior that's detrimental to their health, there's something underneath it. And it's typically going to be something emotional. And your genetic predisposition can also make it harder for you to not fall into these traps. We have a lot
Right.
of children with autism. We have a lot of children with ADHD. We have a child like anything, right? There's a lot of genes also that can help your body store more fat. That can also make it harder. But typically at the core of it, it's not that. There's something going on in the household, in the child's life that is leading them to use food as a coping mechanism.
And so when someone like a parent is like, "You know what? That's me. I fit that, like, I'm trying to help my child." What steps do you take next? What what steps do you take next to be able to help them find out the deep root cause?
So the first step is really like spending the time to understand, right? You listen to the Dr. Dan pediatrician podcast, and he was
Yes.
explaining how it's impossible for a doctor to spend 15 minutes to understand what's going on in your family. Impossible, right? We need to understand what are the parents doing? What are the children doing? What are the siblings doing? What's the environment in the house? What's the emotional environment, physical environment, the habits everything. So the first step is that we try to understand exactly what's going on, and then if we can help your family and if it's something that we feel confident that we can help you with, it's very simple. We like to say that we come into your life and we help you make the changes. We are almost like detecting your blind spots, because when it comes
Right.
to emotions, it's a lot of things that you don't see. Some other person, that's why
Mhm.
you go to therapy, right? You need someone
Right.
else to tell you, hey, this is what I see objectively, and I think you responded it in a different way because of your own preconditions, you want to
Mhm.
call it. So we work with families during a period of 4 months, hands on every single day, birthdays, weekends, holidays, because that's the moments that it cracks, right?
I
It's
was
like,
gonna say, yes, birthdays, it's like you can have a great routine and then Christmas hits or Easter hits, and like all this candy, Halloween, all this candy flows into your house,
yeah. And
and then
then
it's your routine is gone, and then you feel like you have to rebuild something. Like, well, I guess what I was doing before didn't work, so now I have to rebuild it and do something totally different, is what
and
it
it's
feels like.
It's exactly that. It's so discouraging. You've worked so hard to try to build a new habit, and then you see your child like they grab the entire bag of candy and eat it in one shot. You're like, okay, nothing changed. Let's throw it all out. It's just whatever. Let's forget this for another couple of years. But no, it's important to understand that even in those contexts, there are stuff that you can do to make it better. You're not gonna always be able to like you don't want to control your child or make them feel restricted. You want them to understand also that this entire thing is happening and be able to go out at their friends or outside at the birthday party and be able to regulate themselves. But it's really this: we come into your life, we help you make the food changes, the screen changes, the sleep changes, movement, physical activity. But the most important part is the emotional regulation. Sometimes parents tell us, hey, you kind of tricked us into couple counseling.
So parents are like, "Wait a minute, this
Yeah,
might
it's like,
not be all my kid. This might be my problem too."
Y yeah, and it's that those exact words, it's when we hear it, we're like, "Ah, this is amazing. This is amazing," because it is at the core of it, it's that. Your children are just a sponge to everything that's on your plate. And if your parents are going through things and,
Mhm.
as for me, it's deeply personal. My parents, there was a lot of violent fighting, a lot of stuff that at the time I was like, "Oh, this is normal." Like
Right.
if my mom and dad are like yelling at each other and doors are being slammed, that plates are being thrown, that's just
Everybody
normal.
else's, yeah, everybody else's
Yeah,
parents do this. Yeah.
but I also like, who do I go to if I'm overwhelmed? If my parents are overwhelmed and I have something that I want to say, I don't want to make their life worse. I go in my room, I put my headphones on, I grab a box of cereal, and we're jamming, right?
And everything's fine again.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, so often it comes down to making sure that the emotional health of the entire household is as good as it can be so that when your child is emotional, you can absorb it, not the opposite,
Mm. And
right?
that's really hard for an ADHD mom. I know a lot of us have ADHD, our kids have ADHD. And for us to be able to absorb that from our children that's really difficult.
It is. It really is. And I know this also again personally because I was textbook both inattentive and hyperactive. Even to this day, like I might look a little bit calmer now, but everyone who comes and sees my environment and sees how I behave, like my mind's just like buzzing all over the place. My
Yeah.
my coping strategy is really work right now, right? I use work
Hmm.
as my favorite source of dopamine. You might have some
I
of
do
that. I'm
too.
sure a lot of people in the audience
Yeah.
like, yeah,
Yep. Especially the high functioning ones, right? Because it's like we're going to use this energy to achieve something.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's hard. I empathize. If you're a mom and you have ADHD and your child has ADHD, it is really difficult. But the reframe that really helps is realize that ADHD is actually a superpower in disguise, right? It has to be honed. You have a mind who craves stimulation,
Hmm.
and the world is designed to hijack that. There's billions of dollars poured into the food industry, into the tech industry, just to hijack that exact part of the brain that ADHD struggles with to make sure that they're hooked. So addiction, actually, Dr. Dan, one of my favorite sayings from him is ADD is the first three letters of addiction, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's
It,
that once you understand this, you have to protect your child and also guide them toward a life that stimulation is just abundant. Don't expect your child to be able to be normal and sitting in class and just cope with normal life. Life is not designed for neurodivergent kids. You have to
no.
engage them.
And I think there's a lot of people who are coming together and trying to say, this, I'm not sure that what we're doing is working. Like having our child sit all day trying to pay attention. That does bring a huge emotional response later because you can only hold that for so long until you just crumble and need that bowl of cereal, need that granola bar, or 10 of them.
Yeah, and we can talk about masking and we can talk about all those things, but
Oh, yeah.
at the core of it, it's very simple. You need more stimulation. You have to design a life and slowly guide them towards a life where they're getting dopamine from a healthy source as opposed to all the stuff that's designed to hijack them. And it's draining and it's exhausting, and you have to constantly change things because novelty is the source of dopamine. So your child's going to
Yeah.
be excited about tennis for 1 week and then, you know what? I hate it. I want to go through
Mhm.
3D printing,
Yep. All of the sports things we have in our shed right now. Like, "Oh, well, we tried that, and that was fun for a little bit," and yeah.
which is all the more reason that as a parent, you have to put your own oxygen mask first, take care of your health
Mm,
as best you can, make sure that your environment is as healthy as you can. Maybe change some of your priorities. If you're a high functioning mom, very easy for you to be hijacked into work, 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 work
mhm.
at the cost of your own health, at the cost of your family's health, right?
Yes, and I definitely can relate to that 100% because in a way, it's easier for me to work than to deal with emotions or whatever's going on with the kids, and I can't look at my husband and say, "Well, this is your turn. You can take care of this. It's your turn," because he's looking at me going, "I'm exhausted too. Like, where do we go?" So, and I love your framework and how you come alongside families. And it's not just like, all right, 15-minute appointment, here's what's going on, good luck with that. Right? You partner, you're hand-holding families and walking through that.
Yeah, it really is, especially because we're talking about psychological change. Even one time a week is not enough. We are really there every single day, text communication, more meetings if you need to, just to make sure that at the moments of things breaking, you're able to reframe, you're able to recontextualize and keep building the patterns and habits that need to be reshaped. It took probably decades for you to get to who you are today. It's not going to change in a couple sessions. We can only hope to start shifting. The way I like to frame it is it's kind of like the Titanic headed towards the iceberg. A lot of parents are worried about their child when they leave the household. What's going to happen? Are they going to
Mhm.
be able to survive on their own? You just need to shift a couple degrees. Tiny, tiny, and the younger they are, the better it is. Change them a little bit, and then the rest of the trajectory is much more clear,
Yeah,
right?
and then they're learning the resilience, and they're learning the coping mechanisms that are positive and not a negative coping mechanism, and they're teaching their friends and kids. Well, thank you so much, Kami. I appreciate you and sharing your story and what you're doing with Step Together. Can you let people know how to find you?
If anything here resonated to you, just go on our website at steptogether.us and read some of the stories of the families. Read some of the stories of the team members that step together. One of the things I'm really, really proud of is every person on our team has personally struggled with childhood weight and all the symptoms of it. And every story is a little bit different. You have a child who's lonely and left alone at home and they go to food. You have a child who's hyperactive ADHD and they just bounce off the walls and eat sugar, 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 right? So please read some of those stories and I hope that it gives you a little bit of hope at the core of it. It's like, yeah, there is a light at the end of the tunnel.
And what is the website again?
Steptogether.us.
Like, thank you so much, Kami. Appreciate you.
Thank you so much.